This is Scott Welch, Muscle Insider Magazine. We are going to go behind the brand with Mutant Nation CEO Jim McMahon. I should just say Mutant CEO Jim McMahon. How are you doing today, Jim?
I'm doing well. The hair is ready. I think we're locked and loaded.
Amazing. Listen, how did you come up with the name Mutant?
I can't claim that it was 100% me. Otherwise, some people already watching this are going to call me out. So I always err to that. If I recall correctly, I think there's 3 or 4 of us in one room, and we were just trying to come up with a pretty neat idea. And you got to remember, it wasn't the brand that was coming up first. We've never hidden behind the fact that our company is also the PVL brand, and within that brand, we were coming up with some new product ideas, and we saw the category of gainers was something that was underserved, and I come from that original background, and it was just an organic conversation. I wish we had recorded it. It would have been phenomenal to see how that all came about, but it was just an authentic conversation and coming up with the name of the gainer, Mutant Mass, and that's what begot the whole mutant ball rolling after that. But it was never a preordained thought or anything like that. Let's go create another brand. Or this was actually a product conversation, and from that, everything else happened. But that's how it started.
A lot of people don't know that you actually manufacture your own product. Now, what does that mean for the average gym rat out there to know that they're talking right now to you, and that you are the one, you are the butcher, if you will, you are the person who is making their supplements? What does this mean to the average gym rat that may not know this?
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of advantages. There's a lot of challenges too. I mean, number one, we don't have to wait to go to a third-party co-packer, for example. Like right now, the industry is going through a global supply chain challenge. You have brands that have to wait for their products to be made by somebody else, and sometimes you're waiting 6 months for product right now. And so, that is one heck of a big challenge right there. We don't have as much of that challenge. We also, for the consumer's benefit, and this is hard to see on a label. You just can't see every detail on a label. But us being the manufacturer, what I like to let consumers know is that you should buy your supplements from a brand that you can find the physical address of the brand. I'm sorry, like nothing against other brands, but good responsible brands, they have their address out there. And so our address is part of what we're doing. And that's because that's where an inspector from Health Canada or an inspector from the United States Food and Drug Administration has to come and visit. So it's a level of reassurance too for consumers to know that there's a physical address, and being the manufacturer, we're able to stay in stock a little bit better. Like, for example, we had 14 flavors of Mutant BCA, and then the pandemic starts to hit. Well, okay, trying to manage 14 flavors of BCA or 13 flavors in Mutant IsoSurge, that's just crazy. So we're going to hyper focus on in proteins. Let's be in stock in vanilla and chocolate, and then in Mutant BCA and other things like that, depending on what part of the world we're selling to, because again, we have that advantage. We're able to export tremendous amounts of product out of here. So blue raspberry might be a killer flavor in North America, but it's a totally different flavor along the equator, for example, where a lot of our other business is. So there's more advantages than just that, but there's a lot going on when you're in manufacturing. And we have about 250,000 square feet of operations here too. So it's not like, I don't want to say, others are small. I'm just going 250,000 square feet is a lot going on here.
Absolutely. Now, we've seen podcasts and different posts from people like Mark Glazer, or people like you have been in the industry for 20 plus years, manufacturing your own products. He's over at NutriBio. There's a major shortage that's happening in the industry that a lot of consumers watching this wouldn't understand. Now, what is this going to mean for supplements in the next 6 months? Like, are prices going up? Like, what exactly is going to happen, and what is happening?
Well, let's look no further than outside of our industry, and go to Home Depot or Lowe's, or try to buy some lumber right now. Lumber is like 3 times the price of just where it was. If you're a fan of certain types of soda pop, you have a hard time finding the brand you like in the size you like, because there's just a lack of supply on everything. There's a lack of, you think about it, a big ocean going vessel, and it's got all those 40-foot shipping containers on it. And whatever's going on in China affects Germany, affects Japan, affects Australia. This is a global effect. So you're going to see prices going up. You're already seeing prices going up in creatine. That was one I don't think a lot of us saw. And I like to think that I'm a little bit more ahead of the game than some other brands out there, just because we've been around for 25 years and our purchasing power is that high. But creatine was one that I think caught the whole industry off guard, and it's a staggering increase. And then whey protein is, I think most people have already seen that one has just started to creep up, but it's going to be quite it's going to be a ride. Like, there's no question about it, and it is what it is. But in the great scheme, in this great context of things, my old buddy Bert, who I know is watching right now, hey, a generation ago, creatine was 3 times the price it is today. So if creatine only goes up, say, 50% today, hey kids, it's not as expensive as what me and Uncle Bert were buying, 25 years ago. So there is that. And same thing with the whey protein. The last 5 years, industry-wise, we've actually been enjoying historical low prices on whey protein. So while the current short term is going to look like a spike, it'll come back down eventually, is what we're all guessing, all planning for, and we should have a nice leveling out period. But I just want to let people know that we've been nicely greedy at the trough. I mean, all of us as consumers, we've enjoyed these low prices for about 4 or 5 years. So don't look at them as, oh my God, the world's falling apart. No, that's not the case. So, but yeah, short term protein, she's going to spike up, and there's going to be shortages. That's the other thing. So. That's not me spreading a rumor. That's the cold hard fact. You talk to anybody.
Yeah. I listened to your podcast with Shane Smith at Stack 3D yesterday, and it was really well done. You talked about Mutant Mass and the innovation bringing MCT oils to the market in terms of being one of the 4 founders of that. In fact, I think you were probably the first one that ever brought it to a gainer. So it was really good. And you guys were known for, and you have been known as the Mutant Mass company, but your other product, Mutant Whey, and your Mutant BCA 9.7, a lot of people don't realize that you are one of the largest suppliers in the world of BCAAs, and your BCA 9.7 product just kills it in over 100 countries. Talk to me a bit about that product.
Well, the BCA, I mean, again, I'm very old school. I believe in a really strong foundation. So we're a food first, mantra minded company. People ask us, hey, tell me about your powder, tell me about this. And I go, listen, everything we make is just there to fill a gap, or maybe to help, accelerate your results if you've already filled the gaps. And that's what supplements are for. So we never want to portray our products as magic potions or anything like that. Having said that, to me, BCA is one of those foundational products that if all the rest of your protein is topped up, then perfect. Let's add some BCAs into the mix, because you are going to get some higher degree of recovery, especially intra-workout. And, I know there's a lot of different beliefs and camps on BCAs and EAAs, and I'm just going to say we believe in choice, and BCAs all of a sudden didn't become a bad thing, and they're still great as far as I'm concerned, as long as you add enough other ingredients to them. But yeah, we were amongst the first with BCAs, I don't mean in a big corporate sense, but with the fermented BCAs. I was there at the beginning with the Ajinomoto. They had Milos Sarcev there as well as spokesmodel. We met all in Vegas at the One Supply show. I had drinks with the guys. It was at Treasure Island, if I recall correctly. So we were there at the very beginning. And, the fermented aminos are what they are. They're great. They're better than the hydrolyzed ones, which I know some people are going to ask me some other questions at some point about that. But I just go fermented, the vegan. And, yeah, we buy a lot. And we know where we're at. There's about maybe 10 brands in the world that are at the level we're at or higher in types of purchasing power.
Now, you struck it right there, and I'm going to get it out in the open, but is there any truth that brands right now in the industry, not to saying your brand, but other brands are selling bird feathers, human hair that have been hydrolyzed? We saw some ads in the past from Magnum that pointed this point out, that some companies are using that. And obviously BCA 9.7 and BCA Thermo, which we're going to be talking about today, obviously uses the vegan fermented BCAs, but can you set the rumors straight on the supply side about BCAs?
Well, I'm not there, so I can't attest to whether the hydrolyzed versions are using bird feathers or not, but I do see that specification as on some of the raw material supplies that we do not buy. So we're very cognizant to make sure our supply chain is fermented, and we do pay a little bit more for that. And that I can authentically tell you. And in fact, some of the other brands that are in the know, they know if they're buying from a broker in California, where a lot of U.S. brands are buying from, you have an option that's right there actually from some of the raw material supplier brokers. And it says right on the menu, hydrolyzed or fermented, which one do you want? So it's out there. So you do pay more and you get what you pay for. So it's not radically more. It's only about maybe 10 or 12% more is what we pay for the fermented BCAs.
Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about this. Now, last summer, BCA Thermo came out. The pandemic had just hit, summer had hit, and then we saw you drop this product on the market. Take me through that in terms of how have people responded. I mean, this is a thermogenic BCA, something that's going to help you lose fat. Take me a little bit through the thinking of bringing the extension of your BCA product out in a thermogenic version.
Well, again, at the end of the day, people want to benefit from any product they're going to buy. Like nobody's rushing to buy my BCAs or somebody else's just because they want to buy a BCA. They're looking for a benefit. Okay, so then you start to look at how people are actually using them. And then, as we all know, predominantly a lot of BCAs became what we called intra-workout products. And I kind of steered away from that. I didn't want to pigeonhole. There's only one way to use a certain product. I mean, BCAs, I could tell you probably 2 or 3 of my favorite different ways to use them. But as things got into more the fasted cardio areas, and we saw that coming, and again, I mean, you and I have been around this industry a long time, and there's a lot of us who have been doing fasted cardio off and on over 30 years. I mean, Bill Phillips, EAS, and Muscle Media 2000, they were always talking about fasted cardio, and so that was one of the top things. So fasted cardio is not new. The question is how do you get maximum benefit from your fasted cardio? And so some people were, looking to use L-carnitine as the core amino acid for shuttling stored body fat into the mitochondria for energy purposes. And we're like, listen, no question, but let's be clear. You got to feed your metabolic engine too. So not just, have fat being transported and being used as your caloric energy during your workout. Let's preserve that muscle. So BCA is very simple, a very simple play for muscle preservation. And then let's put the caffeine in there, obviously the world's most popular energy ingredient. But then we added in the one that I think has been underutilized now, and it's Grains of Paradise. And we went on a journey just to find the right one. I mean, that's a very tangent story right there. You just don't call up somebody and say, hey, you got Grains of Paradise, and then you accept their answer as a raw material supply. You just don't accept their answer as the gospel. But so we had to sort through a few different suppliers to make sure we got the right one.
Amazing. Yeah, so listen, NNB Nutrition, they're the ones who supply Calorie Burn, GP, and obviously they have a lot of other branded ingredients that are out there. And obviously that's one of the things that our good friends, I've got an actual bottle here, Jim, that even you don't have the pure form of it myself, just for the calorie burning, but this is inside BCA Thermo. And this is what's going to help obviously stimulate brown adipose tissue, increasing calorie expenditure. In fact, I saw on your website that you even cited the research that you can get a 5-fold increase in calorie burning from Grains of Paradise. So this is amazing.
Scott, let me interrupt you and let's be clear. It has to be the right form of Grains of Paradise. And this is something that I put out there, and really don't care if any other brand wants to shoot me. Bring it. At the end of the day, a product is based on the sum total of its ingredients, and specific to Grains of Paradise. The reason why we chose the NNB one, known as Caloriburn, was very simple. There was enough proof positive that what they were doing was a legitimate ingredient. And so, I'm not saying all other Grains of Paradise aren't doing an awesome job, but we couldn't feel comfortable with enough of the proof. So we got enough proof from NNB. And what you're looking for is, the Grains of Paradise is what's used in the study. and not an isolated chemical constituent that naturally occurs in the grains of paradise. So you want the plant-derived one. But there is one active constituent within grains of paradise that I'm aware of. Some other ingredient suppliers, it's not actually grains of paradise of what they're selling. So it's kind of buyer beware at this stage, at the raw material buyer stage. And so we do put that level of care into something like this. So we were happy to partner up with NNB on their caloriburn, because we knew it was a plant extract and there's all the other phytochemicals that were naturally occurring in there. So it gave us a greater degree of comfort to go ahead with their version of it.
Yeah, we got the 6-paradol, and that's the one that a lot of other companies cite. But there's also a 6-gingerdione, a 6-shaga-L, and a 6-gingerol. But it's funny to see. I mean, in your perspective, I mean, you have to cover manufacturing your product in Canada, you have to cross the U.S. border. So how important is it for you to have everything on point with the ingredient quality of what you sell? Because you can't, there's all kinds of adulterated grains of paradise on the market where they just spike it with 6-paradol. And unless you do an HPLC test on all of the constituents, you're not maybe even getting a natural version of this that have the right alkaloids and the right ratios that were based on the studies, which I think obviously you touched on.
Well, yeah, and the original point, I think, of your question, talking about the quality and crossing a border and stuff like that. Like we're in an oddly unusual position as Mutant. We start in Canada and then we ship into the States, which is not the normal route of business for a lot of companies. And as you can appreciate, especially during the pandemic, there's a lot of border officers at the border when products going from north to south, and we're constantly inspected at the border. So that's not a bad thing. I find that's a very good thing. So it's like a badge of honor we get to wear. So they go and they test the products from time to time. There's always a spot test, and I'm not going to claim we're perfect or anything like that, but we have a very high degree of care. And when the FDA tests our products and they go, oh, you claim there's 6 grams of BCAAs and you got 6.05 grams, way to go. And same thing with grains of paradise. So all the label claims, and particularly on the dietary supplements, that's something that the FDA is really looking for. And so we are very aware of that as well. And so like on a BCA formula, you'll see that we might have a larger serving size to deliver 6 grams of BCAAs than say can be found out there. It's because we're taking a degree of risk out from the consumer. So we're probably overstating our serving size to make sure that the 6 grams of BCAAs, the grains of paradise, the caffeine, the full dose of the multi-patented bioparin that's also in there, that's all in there. So and the FDA kind of holds us accountable.
Amazing. Now we got 3 flavors. Obviously, Candy Crush, Tropical Punch, and blue raspberry. What is your favorite? I mean, we're going to get into the taste connoisseur side of you, but what out of those 3, when the Mutant CEA is cutting down, I've been watching your Instagram posts, and you're obviously back in the gym grinding now that spring is here. You're continuing to get yourself back at it. What of the 3 flavors do you prefer the most?
Whatever goes with vodka.
Exactly.
Whichever one's going with vodka. No, I'm just kidding. Don't mix your caffeine with your vodka. Not smart.
That's right. I think that's even on your own warning, Jim.
I believe it is. No, listen. I like all of our flavors. That's why we stuck to 3 so we can keep them in stock too. I mean, again, that's something that's going on right now. Going back to your global supply chain issues, like just being in stock is the way to go right now. So I'm just happy if I have at least 2 out of the 3 flavors in stock right now. But me, I'm kind of digging this Candy Crush. I mean, I've been a blue raspberry person for decades, especially ever since when Rich Gaspari came out with Super Pump. That was one of the original blue raspberries in our industry, and I go, that paved the path for a lot of us. So thanks again, Rich, for that.
Excellent. Now, you being a connoisseur, a lot of the people on the, they grab on taste. A lot of the times people just grab a label and they mix it haphazardly, and they don't see what you and Cheryl and your whole flavoring
Yeah.
team do with the exact level. Now, Jim, I hope you don't think this is a bit crazy, but just to get my supplement mixing right, I got a graduated cylinder.
No,
Just
Scott.
like you have in the lab, just like you have in the lab.
Yeah, no,
Just
I
like
don't think
exact dose.
I don't think that's crazy at all, Scott.
Okay, so I'm going to mix this up. 250 milliliters of BCA Thermo. Candy Crush is what you called is the best flavor. And of course, level scoop, because the powder has to be exactly what we have produced. You have produced in the lab to match what is there. So this is already pre-arranged. 250 milliliters exactly here. And this is a really cool jug you guys have launched. I really like the all the apparel you guys do. You just do a phenomenal job.
Oh, thank you.
This and the metal shaker was awesome. So gonna give this one a shake. Now, what is the ideal time would you recommend taking BCA Thermo?
Again, if you're into fasted cardio, I think that's one of the better things out there for muscle preservation. And then you're lighting it up with the energy, and then you're activating that brown fat tissue with the caloric burn. And so you actually do have the proven caloric burn with all that extra calorie burning. I mean, go look up the studies. I don't make this stuff up. It's out there. So, but that would be my first favorite time. And then if I'm, if it is a workout, it's not fasted cardio, and I'm still more of a fan of our original BCA for that purpose. But if I need a little kick in the ass going to the gym, I'll take a hit of BCA Thermo, maybe even a scoop and a half. Take her up.
Yeah. The grains of paradise, I also like that you're getting a stimulation, but it's actually not a stimulant. So you're not going to be kept up at night. And a lot of people are avoiding sort of taking thermogenics because they always come with a whack of caffeine. But I understand this has caffeine in the product, though. I believe 220 milligrams.
It's got about a venti from Starbucks shot of caffeine. We didn't want to go too short. We also didn't want to go, crazy. I was going to use a different word. I don't want to swear on your podcast. I'll swear on Shane's. I won't swear on yours. How's that? But yeah, no. Listen, I like the studies that are out there on using crazy amounts of caffeine. They are legit. We know about them. 400, 600, 800 milligrams. But I'm also a technician. I don't believe that we should all just be plowing in more just to have more. Eventually, our own systems start to down-regulate the response. So, have a venti. If that's your coffee load, then BCA Thermo is the right one for you then. That's where I look at it. And having too little caffeine too, why bother then? Like when I see some of the other ones that are, it's a 100 milligram blend and it's delivering 60 milligrams of caffeine. I'm like, why bother?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Now, how long does it take you from the ideation phase to market? I mean, on average for a supplement. I mean, for those at home, they just see them in your Popeye store, your Supplement King store, your supplementsource.ca, wherever they see these. But how long does it take? I mean, does it all depend on the product you're working with, or in general, is sort of a formula that you work with?
Boy, if it was a cookie cutter answer, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You just never know. Like, obviously, depending on the product categories, first where you go, and then what are you trying to accomplish within the category. So, for example, let's talk protein powders real fast. I mean, okay, how much more can we reinvent protein powders? So most of the development out there is just a flavor development. Okay, well, that can take 1 week or that could take 1 year, depending on where you're wanting to go. So for us, and you know this firsthand, and so do a lot of people who are watching this. I'm watching some of the names come up. They know how careful we are on the flavor. I mean, we're not perfect every time, but you mentioned Cheryl, that's our R&D manager. You've seen it firsthand. 60 cups of BCA Thermo was in there amongst the 3 flavors. So, we went 20 different versions going on there. So we have the luxury of being in-house lab, in-house production, and in-house distribution. So we don't have to wait 2 weeks for an outside co-packer to send us the next sample. We can go within hours sometimes. And so if we're lucky enough, fortunate enough, that the category is a fairly simpler category, and we know that our target is that much simpler to attain. And say we're doing a peach mango, something like that. Boom. Okay, then we'll do the peach mango. But for us too, we're all because of the number of countries that Mutant is in, like it's pretty much about 100 countries and then some. Doing a peach mango for us is not a walk in the park. You know how many different mango flavor versions there are around the world? Like the mango in Mexico tastes a little bit different than to the person in the Philippines, and different to the person in China, and different to the person in America, for example. So, you know, we have to be mindful of that. But for the most part, I think we've done pretty good, and most of our customers, distributors, and retailers attest to that because they keep repurchasing.
Okay, now all bullshit aside, there I made you and Shane happy. What makes Mutants as a brand different than everything else? Because there's a lot of supplements on the market, and as you know, and I know, there's more brands that keep coming in and keep coming in, and every time you go into a supplement store, you see another one pop up. What is in the DNA of Mutant products that makes it different than what else is out there?
Holy crap, is that ever a loaded question? You know, I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's a totality of multiple things coming in. Because if you try to err on being, you know, the number one in flavor, okay, that's an area to go on. But we have to take into account where we're currently at, and we've been doing this for over 25 years now. So I think it's the totality of all those ingredients. Like we've done this for 25 years, so there's a unique set of experience that I think there's only 3 or 4 other brands on the planet who can make that exact claim as we make it. I came from the genre of gainers, so Mutant Mass technically wasn't the first gainer with an MCT oil. I'd already done that before with another brand 30 years ago. Fermented BCAAs, we weren't the first, but we developed into being one of the 10 largest ones, I think, in the world.
Yeah.
So it's just that sheer totality, you know, the physical address. You can look us up. We're at 1589 Quebec Way in Port Coquitlam, BC, Canada. Everybody knows where we are. You know, the fact we're our own distributor, our own manufacturer, our own lab. We have products over at Informed Choice. We cross so many borders. We've been there. Like we've been boots on the ground. We've gone to Sweden. We've gone to Australia. I was in Australia and New Zealand right before the COVID. You know, my guys have been to Russia. I've been to China a few times on sales trips. There's a Mutant gym, for crying out loud, in Shanghai, China. Okay, what other brand gets to say they actually have a gym, and let alone one of the biggest ones in China as well? So that's kind of a neat thing. And then look at our clothing. I think there's a lot of care and attention into what we do. We're guilty of being too busy. I'll be honest about that. From behind the scenes, and so sometimes, you know, a little glitch gets out there, and you know, maybe the red wasn't the perfect red on a bag, and we'll call Jeff about that once in a while. Hi, Jeff. Anyway.
Jeff Ranty, our good friend, big supporter of Mutant and Muscle Insider.
Yeah, but Jeff has saved my butt many times in the bag industry. I'll tell you that. But the other thing is, I think we're always self-challenging. Like we don't mind making a mistake by being innovative. Like people can look at what we've accomplished or our current lineup of products. I can tell you there's a ton of products that are no longer in our lineup that, for whatever reason, they just don't work today. And it's not necessarily if they were a failure or not, but we're unafraid to fail. And I think that's important. It's kind of like doing an 800-pound squat, 600-pound squat, whatever you're thinking is a barrier for you. It's okay to go for it, and it's okay not to make it the first time. But you know what? You gave it your best, and then you come back for the second hit. Maybe that's the time you do it. But you got to be unafraid, and we do that. And the other thing is, sadly, unfortunately, there are rules on the planet. There's rules and regulations, and we abide by the regulations. You know, in a very tight fashion, like I already talked about. You know, the way we formulate, especially the dietary supplements, because we know the FDA is watching. So I think it's the totality that makes us a little different. And yeah, there's a boring middle-aged guy at the top of the company. He's been there for 25 years. We're not public. I don't answer to a bunch of shareholders looking for profit.
Yeah.
And everybody who knows us business-wise, not just in Canada, but around the world, what we did in the last 18 months, focusing on the consumer experience, making sure all of our retailers and distributors could have access to product. And I think we did a good thing for a lot of good people out there, so the consumers could actually get product. It's been tough. Like, I am a consumer first and last as well. I can't imagine walking in a consumer's shoes right now and not knowing all the things that I know from behind the scenes. It's got to be looking pretty crazy on some of the shelves out there, which we know it is. It's nuts right now.
Amazing. Okay, so I wouldn't obviously be who I am if I didn't say, what is next in the supplement side from Mutant, right from you? I know that you've hinted around. I saw on the podcast with Shane Smith, you talked about something new coming maybe in the pre-workout area.
Yeah.
But what's going on?
All right. Well, hey, I won't beat around too much of the bush, but you're not going to get a 100% answer out of me today. I do play dirty in that context. My last name is McMahon. I've learned a thing or two from my Uncle Vince from the wrestling world. Just kidding, everybody. He's not really my uncle, but if you want to think he is, I'm good with that.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyways, no, we are definitely coming out with a pre-workout. Our Mutant Madness is a small size pre-workout. It's very highly concentrated, based on a high degree of skim on the caffeine and a few other things. For a long time, we wanted to get back into the pre-workout category, but it was just so busy. I mean, just every week there was a new pre-workout powder coming out. I'm like, listen, I'm going to let this news cycle exhaust itself a little bit. Not everybody. I mean, how many more pre-workouts can the world handle that are citrulline or citrulline malate with beta-alanine, caffeine, and then, oh, did you put neuros in it? Or did you put this in it? I mean, it's getting confusing. So what Mutant wanted to do was hit the pause button on the development. We've been working on this product off and on, I would say, for, I don't know, Scott, like 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. It might even be 4 years. So we just put the pause button on it, and we were like, okay, yeah, but this isn't working for us. And it's not going to work for the consumers to the degree we want it to. And so we did find a little hole in the industry in the pre-workout category. And I talked with Ron and some of the other guys about it. I said, well, there's really one goal in the gym. I'm not going to tell everybody. If I tell you what the goal in the gym is right now, then I'm kind of giving away what this new thing is.
Sure.
But we hyper-focused on that one goal. That's what this new pre-workout's all about. And there's going to be a lot of good competitor products out there that are on kind of the same tangent, but I authentically believe, I don't think anybody quite went as far as we went on this one tangent. And it's going to be, I'm setting myself up for a little fall here because I don't want to sound like I'm overhyping. It's not going to be, oh, it's this so nobody's ever seen this before. And I go, well, technically, I haven't seen too many like this ever. And I think also the consumers and myself included were kind of underserviced by formulas like this before. So I think we're coming around to it with an all-in approach, and we're going to have fun with it. And then it merges with something else that's coming up as well.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a failed drop.
I got to thank you, really. I got to thank you deeply for coming on here, Jim. It's been great to go behind the brand. Thanks to our friends over at NNB Nutrition, suppliers of the Calorie Burn GP. That's the Grains of Paradise that they have, branded ingredient, phenomenal, best in my opinion. Really got to thank you guys for checking this out. And for all those people out there that should be checking out the Mutant Nation on YouTube. I see you guys have brought back your YouTube channel again, getting the content out there. And obviously at Mutant Nation on Instagram and Facebook. Really good to see, thank you for sharing some insight with us on this. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to share some insight with us on what is behind the brand of Mutant.
All right, Scott, thanks again as always. Thanks to everybody for paying attention. Don't forget, at Mutant CEO. And one more, July 20th. Something's happening. Just saying.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thanks again.
Peace, everybody.